y'all, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Ayana Sabri, and judging by the title, y'all know why we're here today. So I really don't want to waste too much time. I'm gonna give y'all a quick little background about me and how the experience was for me, and then I'm gonna give you guys what I used to study, some tips, tricks, and all that. So first off, before I get started, I really just want to say congratulations to getting to this point. I know it wasn't easy. I know it was a lot of tears, sweat. It was just a lot put into it. So you really should be proud of yourself for getting this far. Um, yeah, please don't be scared of the NCLEX or NCLEX Next Gen. It's not hard. You're capable of doing this. Nursing school, I promise you, was harder. This is just one test and the last hurdle into honestly peace, because since I've taken it, it's really just been so peaceful. But you're so close, so just keep pushing. So quick background about myself: I graduated May of 2023, and I also took the NCLEX in May 2023 towards the end of the month, May 30th, and I did not pass on the first time. um, I got 150 questions. I thought I was ready. I used Archer, and I don't know if some of you guys are on TikTok, and a lot of people on TikTok were saying, if you score very high 4 times consecutively, that you should just go ahead and take it, that you don't need to be continue studying, that you're just going to overload your brain, all this yada yada yada. You take the CAT exam. If you get 3 or 4 times consecutively passed, then you should go ahead and take it. And so I did exactly that. So I was actually planning, I think, for like June or so, like the first couple of weeks of June. And then I moved my date forward to May 30th. And I took the NCLEX then because I was doing so well with Archer. I thought, let me just go ahead and take it, get it out the way so I can enjoy my summer. Wrong. So yeah, no, that did not go as planned for me at all. So like I said, I got 150 questions the first time. I did not feel good about it personally. As I was taking it, I felt like I didn't know what was going on. I mean, obviously, like, I knew things, but I just didn't know the answers, and some stuff I just, had to click and move on. It just didn't feel good for me the first time. So 48 hours afterwards, I found out my results, and I saw that I failed. Yeah. And honestly, the same day I reapplied, I submitted everything I needed to submit in order to be ready to take it the next time. So I had to wait a total of 45 days in order to reschedule to take the exam again. And so I scheduled my date for around like July 15th or something like that. And so from, what was it, like June something all the way until July, for like a month or so, I was just studying every single day, just studying, trying to understand, where I went wrong and, stuff like that. So second time I took it July 15th, and I passed with 88 questions. My test shut off, and yeah, so I really just want to get into what I was using so I can help y'all out. So like I said before, I use Archer. So I use Archer both times. So the first time I was using Archer, obviously I told y'all I got very high and passed on like 4 consecutively. But I think it was the day before my exam, I failed my first CAT exam. So now I'm freaking out. Like, y'all, I was freaking out. I'm like, oh my gosh, like I failed the exam, like, does this mean I'm gonna fail? Da, 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 da. And so I think I took another one, and no, I took a readiness exam, and then it just said high, like it didn't say very high. So I'm like, what does this mean? Like, how did this just happen all of a sudden? Like, why is this happening before? So yeah, so just for reference, when I was taking the Archer exams, the readiness and the CAT exams, I was making around like 60s to 65, like in the 60 range, but it was still giving me high, very high, and passing on, my results. And so, I mean, I felt pretty confident in what I was doing. I would take the exams, and whatever I missed, I would physically write them down, write the rationales down, or like look up what I need to look up in order to understand why I missed the question. And so, yeah, I mean, that's what I did to study the first time. Archer was pretty much the only thing that I used. I also used the Mark Klimek lectures. I listened to all the Mark Klimek lectures. Um, I took notes on those. I had someone else's notes, but then I added my own notes within those notes. I was listening to them often, but I will say I was using the Archer a lot more. I wasn't using the on-demand, like their series stuff. I was just using the practice questions, and I only think I did like a quarter of their questions, and they have about 2,000 total. And so, yeah, that's pretty much all I did the first time. But for the second time, I went through every single Archer practice question to the point where they had no more questions to give me. So I literally saw every single question that was in their bank, and I did the same exact thing. I took notes, handwritten notes, and I was figuring out why I got this question wrong, rationales, even for questions that I would get right. And I'm like, I kind of guessed on that, but I didn't really know the rationale behind it, because you'll get the same question asking you in a different way on some other questions that were in the Archer test bank. So just always make sure you understand the rationale behind basically every single question, like why is, whatever. Just constantly ask yourself why, because I can almost guarantee you a variation of this question may most likely show up on the NCLEX. So Archer was the main one. The Mark Klimek lectures. I would say watch every single one of the Mark Klimek lectures. I know some people say some of his stuff is outdated. One thing that I did notice with his lectures is when he was talking about pharmacology, he was saying that NCLEX had just incorporated, what did he say? NCLEX had just incorporated like generic names or something that's been around for a while with NCLEX, but something that I guess was new to them back then. I don't know when the lectures were recorded, but there's like little stuff in there where I'm like, oh, like he'll start using trade names, but obviously for NCLEX, y'all need to know the generic name, because they're not going to use the trade name on the exam. So that was that. A lot of people talked very highly of his lecture 12, the prioritization and delegation lecture. That lecture was okay for me personally. Like it was helpful. No, it was helpful. But for me, the second time, I also used something called NCLEX High Yield, and it's on YouTube. So it's a podcast that's on YouTube, and it's very short, like videos. Well, not videos. It's a podcast. It's very short explanations on different diseases and things of that nature. But his prioritization podcast video was very helpful to me, and it was actually like the first thing that I wrote down when I was taking the NCLEX. So NCLEX High Yield, this is Dr. Z's 8 key NCLEX prioritization topics. And for me, this was like key. So prioritization, knowing your contact, airborne, and droplet precautions, and I feel like there was another thing that you are 100% going to have on the NCLEX, and you need to know, because they're going to keep giving it to you. Even if you're getting them right, they're going to keep giving it to you, because it's a whole category within itself in the NCLEX that you need to know. So the 8 things. So the mnemonic for it is ASK graph. So ASK space GRAPH. So it stands for airway, sepsis. The K is for potassium, so anything like potassium changes. Glucose, lethargy or grunting. That's where the R in grunting, but lethargy is the R. Altered mental status, peritonitis, and the last one is hemorrhage. So these 8 things, if you get 4 different scenarios, patient da da da, patient da da da, and you see one of these things, know that that's who you need to go to first. And so that's something that really helped me when I was taking the NCLEX. And each question I got like that, I'm like, okay, what's this? But I also use the Mark Klemick's strategy as well, where, obviously if there's an acute change in the patient's status, that they're probably more likely someone that you need to go see immediately versus a chronic condition, and let's say like COPD and they have shortness of breath. Well, with COPD, we expect them to have shortness of breath, and so you may not need to go to that patient, first, even though it is, you may think airway, breathing, circulation. You have to train your mind to think a little bit differently. And so those are the few things that I use. Honestly, I would say the main thing is to go through every single question on Archer. Like every single question. So like I said before, I was making like around the 60s or so when I first took the NCLEX. So when I was preparing to take it the second time, I started making low 70s at first, and then at one point I started getting into the 80s, and it just really helped me, honestly, because I don't know, like once you keep doing something, keep reading it over and over and over and over, you're gonna get better. Like you're just bound to get better. And so for me, something else something else that I used was, as I was taking these notes, I was telling you guys I'm handwriting these notes. I just kept a booklet with all of my rationales. Like I would just put a little bullet and put rationale, bullet, rationale, like of the questions, and I would do it by the day. So I would say, okay, this day I'm gonna do a readiness exam and a CAT exam. And so I would just put like readiness exam, and I take the exam, and then I would just, whenever I was done, I would go through all the stuff that I got wrong or stuff that I feel like I needed clarification on, and I would just take notes in that area, like that section. And then for my CAT exam, I'll make another title and be like, okay, look at this CAT exam. And so you can see your rationales getting shorter and shorter because you're starting to understand the information more. And so, you may not need to take as many notes. And so that helped me a lot. Another thing is I'm a very visual person. And so while I was studying, I would hang things like around my house just so I was constantly, seeing the information and understanding, oh, this is this and this is that. Because a lot of the stuff, especially med surg, like Addison's, Cushing's, hyper stuff, it's just this versus this. So if you put up something just like, a column like, oh, this is hyperkalemia, this is hypokalemia, and you remember, oh, I remember these signs and symptoms I put on this side and these on this side, that kind of subtle, thing that you're seeing can really be ingrained into your brain, when you're taking the exam. At least for me, it did. That's pretty much all I have for y'all. If you guys have any questions about NCLEX or nursing school related, or just any questions, just drop them in the comment section down below and I will answer them. And maybe if it's a question that a lot of people are asking, I'll just create another video about it. But I hope this video was helpful. Good luck on your NCLEX, and I hope to see y'all in my next video.